Welcome back to the My Online Schooling podcast, the place where we talk to staff, parents and pupils to find out more about life at the online school. In this episode, we're speaking to another of the teaching staff at My Online Schooling. Bethany Jamieson is going to open up for us what life is like as a teacher at the online school. So we're going to find out what her favourite aspect is of teaching at an online school, the extracurricular clubs available at school, including health and well-being, something so important in 2021, and how the children create friendships despite not being physically in the same place. That's all in this episode, so come with me now as we hear from Bethany Jamieson. Bethany, thank you for being here and welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Lovely to be here. I'm fine, thank you. Yep, had a busy day with online teaching. Today I have had 3 hours of English and had an hour of maths in between.
Okay.
And it's now 4:30 and ready for my day to end.
And what year groups have you been teaching today then?
I've had years 4, year 5 and year 6.
Okay. And which ones have been doing maths? Which one's doing English?
So we had year 4 English, year 5 English, year 6 English, and then another session with my year 4s where we had maths today.
Right. And what sort of things are you teaching in English at the moment for those year groups?
So for all of the year groups, we are using a book or a novel as kind of like a context. And so we're teaching English skills, literacy skills through that context. So at the moment, we have been reading this wonderful book, Weslandia, and we are in year 4 creating a brochure about this imaginary world. So they're learning lots of skills like introductions, conclusions, using fronted adverbials. So to talk about place and time and the manner in which something's happening. So that's what we've been doing in year 4. Year 5, again, very similar, using a specific context. We looked at the book initially to help us with our English learning and the skills that we're developing, but also looked at moving image, so looked at the film as well. So today they were ordering and sequencing the film, and they're going to be able to retell the story by the end of next week.
Wow, okay.
Lots of different aspects of literacy and the skills that they need to learn throughout Key Stage 2.
Understood. Right. Thank you for sharing that with us. So Bethany, let's jump back a little bit in time. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into teaching and how you were first introduced to the world of My Online Schooling?
Yeah. So my mum is a teacher. And so I think from a very early age, I spent any day off that I had in school that my mum's school didn't have off. We spent, me and my 2 sisters and younger brother, spent in my mum's school. So I think we were kind of immersed in education from a really young age. And I would say that was the only thing that I had in my mind throughout high school that I wanted to do as I was getting older. So I did lots of work experience in schools and in education. I went off to the University of Stirling, where I studied primary education with a specialism in the environment. So we did a lot of geology, we did outdoor learning, and learned about how we could put that into place within our education setting. And then I actually had my probationary year in Scotland, where we have to pass the first year and meet certain criteria. And for me, I ended up in my old primary school.
Okay. Was that strange?
It was actually really nice because I was familiar with the surroundings, and I think it was a really good place to start off with. And there were a few teachers there that had taught me, and you know, it is nice to have those connections around you whilst I suppose you're going through something that's can be quite challenging, moving from university into a full-time job. So yeah, it was a great experience. I taught primary 2, 3 and primary 6 there. And I spent almost 3 years there when I then decided to move to Australia.
Okay.
So my sister was living out in Australia, and she really inspired me to kind of move on from, I suppose, moving back to where I was brought up. And so I went off to join her in Australia.
Okay. East Coast, West Coast?
She was in Melbourne.
Okay.
So I initially headed to Melbourne, down the south, which was great. I absolutely loved it. And she was at the time working in an office with an admin role, and that happened to be my online schooling's office.
Okay.
So basically she got me into kind of the idea of teaching whilst I was over there, because I kind of thought about trying something new, doing something different. I had a plan to be an au pair. So whilst that was all going on, I had this in the back of my mind. And basically she continued with that job. I moved on up to Sydney, where I was au pairing for a family in the suburbs of Sydney, which was a fantastic experience. Got to see all of the sights whilst feeling very comfortable in my environment. And my sister came up from Melbourne with her crew from work, the office staff from work, and Tom from My Online Schooling, the founder of My Online Schooling. So it was there that we met, and I thought, actually, this is seriously something that I would be really interested in. So I knew that I would have been going off to travel and going to different places, and I thought, you know, my online schooling seems like a really good opportunity to allow me to have that flexibility and move around the place whilst doing something that I love and enjoy.
So when you first heard about the concept of online education, what were your initial thoughts of it?
I mean, I would say my thoughts have completely changed since the very beginning. I thought initially, from kind of like where my setting was, being in Australia, I thought, right, this is an amazing opportunity for people who live in remote areas or remote places, or who do a lot of traveling. And I mean, that's kind of what I connected with as well, because my situation was very similar. However, since coming back from Australia and being based in Scotland, I would say my kind of idea around that has completely changed. The kind of children that we get and the kind of people that are attracted to the online schooling environment, it's just so diverse. They come for so many different reasons. So although I was attracted to the travelling side of things, there were lots of children when I was teaching in the Australia time zone that were attracted to that as well. Here in the UK, many of the children access it because mainstream school hasn't been quite right for them. They've got additional needs that can be met through online teaching. And for me, that's definitely something that I've realised along the way, that actually it's not just for this niche little group of people who live in remote places and who like to travel. It's for anyone and everyone.
And what sort of needs do you mean when you talk about some of the pupils?
So a lot of them have additional support needs. So that could be children suffering with anxiety, with depression, with mental health issues, also children with autism, ADHD, and, you know, a wide range of circumstances that could either affect their learning, impact their learning, or be some kind of barrier towards their learning. And therefore, online schooling really helps them to access learning in a positive way.
Okay, so tell me what it's like then at the start of a lesson. Maybe if you want to engage the pupils in your class as much as possible. In a traditional bricks and mortar environment, a teacher might go into a classroom and sort of, clap their hands and say, right, today we're going to do this, and you kind of gee everybody up in a physical environment. How do you do that when it's all online?
The first thing I would say is, can honestly say with my classes in the junior school, they come in and they're so engaged and enthusiastic without me even doing anything. So I think that is a reward within itself, is that, loads of the children there are so happy to be there, and it's such a positive learning environment that they're all there ready to learn. However, we do have in all of our lessons, the way we set them up, we have a little introduction, an opportunity for the children to have a little chat, talk about their weekends, how they're doing that day, and what lessons they've had. My Year 4 classes love spending the first few minutes of the lessons doing that, showing me what they've been doing in between lessons, bits of homework that they've been completing. And then for every single subject, we have like a starter. So I call them Speedy Starters. So it's a little quick activity that might be a bit of revision from the lesson beforehand. It might be a bit of an introduction to what we're doing in that lesson. It could be a game, it could be a short video, a short song, to grab their attention and to engage them in the lesson.
Amazing. It's incredible. It really is. So tell me about your favourite aspect then of teaching at My Online Schooling. What would that be?
So I think basically I really like the aspect of health and well-being, that kind of side of things. And so on a Monday evening I do a health and well-being club for the seniors and for the juniors. And for me, that is the most important thing and most rewarding thing and most exciting aspect. For example, you get children coming into the class who perhaps initially might be very nervous or quite shy, or have barriers that prevent them from putting their cameras on, microphones on, or talking in the chat box. And I think for me, the most rewarding and interesting aspect is seeing how that progresses and develops over time. I mean, it was just on Monday. I've been teaching a boy in my Year 6 class since the beginning of the school year, so since September. And he contributes so well within class. He's engaged, he answers the questions, he's very able. However, I had never seen him before, never heard him speak.
Right.
And on Monday, we were building rockets, creating rockets in science. We had a little STEM project, science, technology, engineering and maths. And he decided to switch on his camera.
Wow.
And for me, that definitely has to be the most rewarding thing, that for someone that's been such a worry, a concern, and all of a sudden there's a realization that just makes them think, actually, I'm comfortable in this environment, I'm happy to be here, and I can go for it.
Tell me more about how you felt when you saw that camera switch on for the first time.
I mean, it definitely... Putting a face to the name is something that is an extremely strange and different concept to what you're normally used to when you teach someone. You see the person mostly before you see the name, and so that was such a nice aspect of it. But also, I suppose, in a kind of selfish way, is that all of that work over the year, the little bits and pieces, had built up to create a child that was confident enough in my class and with the other pupils. And I think it made me feel great. I mean, I'm sure he would have seen my face light up, and the rest of the class as well, because it's not just me who doesn't see that, it's everyone else in the class. And so, yeah, it was incredible.
And how do the pupils go about making friendships, given the fact that they're all online and quite often in separate places as well?
Yeah, so, I mean, in the most simple way, in my classes, we have the chat box open for anyone to talk to, anyone to have conversations with, which is, I think, a great way to start. You know, someone might just say, oh, I played Minecraft at the weekend, and that's how they make connections with each other. We use breakout rooms as well on Zoom for our tasks, activities every day in our lessons. So therefore, they're getting the opportunity to work in a small group and get to know each other, have those kinds of conversations as they go along. And then kind of out with the classroom environment, we've got assembly, where they all get together once a week and see each other, sing songs with each other, look at other people's learning. And we have on our Canvas page, which is our other platform that we use for my online schooling, and we have a junior common room page. So there are discussion boards open where they can go and talk about themselves. They can post hobbies, pictures. We have house meetings as well. So we've got our 4 teams at my online schooling, named after famous space shuttles.
Okay.
And they go there once or twice a month, and they complete activities. For example, one that we held a couple of months ago was interview a friend in your team. And so they got to go away with kind of like a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pencil, and they asked each other questions and found out facts about each other.
Oh, wow.
It was unreal when they all came back and got together. They said, actually, I found out that this person only lives 2 hours away from me, even though they're on the other side of the world. Or, they used to live where I used to
Wow.
live. Or
Yeah.
we both have this in common. So yeah, it's really, really fascinating doing it that kind of way through our house teams. And then we have our clubs as well. So clubs that are free for everyone, accessible for everyone, and a great place to make friends.
Tell me more about those clubs. What clubs are available to pupils at My Online Schooling?
A huge range. We've got Health and Wellbeing Club that I mentioned earlier, where we're developing our skills to cope with any mental challenges that we might face. And there's also Fitness Club on a Friday afternoon, ending the week with some fitness, and that can range from yoga to Zumba to some boxing. We've got Green Club, so all about living sustainable lifestyles, looking after our environment. There's Film Club, Book Club, Maths Club, a huge range that's suitable for anyone and everyone. I mean, I think almost all of the children in my classes attend at least one club for a bit of fun a week.
Wow. Now, let's jump back to Australia for a second. And this is a question for you, nothing at all to do with My Online Schooling. What's one of the things that you miss most about Australia now that you're not living out there?
Oh, I mean, I'm here based in Scotland, and I think I would have to say it's the weather. Today on a May day, it's chucking it down, and in Australia, the weather was just great. The light evenings, just finishing work and then being able to go out and about in the evening, down to the beach, it being warm enough. Definitely liked the food over there as well, especially in Sydney. They had a wide range of food, lots of Asian food, which I really, really enjoyed. And down where I live here in Scotland is quite remote, so we don't have those kind of opportunities to go out and try those kinds of foods very regularly. So yeah, definitely those two things.
I imagine the opportunities for trying sort of Asian food in Scotland is probably not quite the same kind of quality as that part of the world either, is it?
No, definitely not, no.
Okay, and then to flip that around the other way, if you're out in Australia, let's imagine that you're out in Australia right now, what would you miss most about Scotland?
I think it might be a cliche, but perhaps Iron Brew.
Oh, really?
I love it. And yeah, loved it when I came back home. And some of the food here and drinks here are very, very different to over in Australia. I think part of that is to do with the healthy lifestyles that Australians live and lead compared to us here in Scotland on a general kind of basis.
And ignoring COVID for a minute, which other country would you most like to go and visit?
I would love to travel to South America.
Okay, right.
If COVID wasn't a thing, I would love to do a bit of traveling in South America.
Which countries?
Colombia. Over in Australia, I met a lot of Colombians, and I would really like to be immersed in their culture. It sounds amazing. I've got a friend living in Argentina.
Okay.
So definitely those two would be on my list to go and travel and visit. But closer to home, I have considered moving to, or kind of spending some time in Ireland as well. So yeah, that would be a nice in-between step.
And of course, if you did move to Ireland, you'd be able to carry on teaching with My Online Schooling. There's no issue, no dramas there.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. My Online Schooling have always said, as long as you're within a time zone that is suitable, we can make it work. So yeah, it's very flexible.
Very good. We need to bring this episode to a close in a minute, but if anyone's heard anything and maybe wanted to get in touch with the school, what's the best way for them to reach out right now?
And the best way for you to reach out would be to head over to My Online Schooling website, and there's a little box that pops up there and it says contact us if you've got any questions. That would be probably the best way to go.
Perfect. Well, look, Bethany, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming on to this episode. It's been great to hear all about your teaching experience. It's been good to hear about health and well-being as well. And thank you for sharing all of that with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a lovely end to the day.
So that was Bethany Jamieson talking about life as a teacher at My Online Schooling. As always, a huge thank you to Bethany for coming onto the podcast and talking to us all today. Now, if you have any questions at all about anything you've heard, then just visit the school's website. You can search My Online Schooling on Google and find it straight away. And also, while you're there, don't forget that you can follow this podcast channel, because then when each episode is released, you'll get a small notification just to let you know that it's available. So go and do that. But in the meantime, thank you for listening to this episode. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.